I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and here today with me is Larisa Sprott. She's president of Sprott Money and co-founder of Argo. Thank you so much for being here. Great to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Really good to be speaking with you. And I'm sure many people in our audience will be familiar with you, but just because it's our first time talking, I thought we could start with a brief introduction to yourself and your background in the industry.
Sure. So I actually joined Sprott Money about 15 years ago. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Sprott Money does, but we are a physical dealer. So we sell gold, silver, and platinum for delivery and storage. And my involvement with Argo is we are co-founder and part owner. We are invested in Argo, and we're very interested in seeing it succeed because this is the next level of and the next generation of gold ownership.
Yeah, so definitely really exciting and good to have that context there. There's some recent news between Argo and Sprott Money that we're going to go into. But before we do, I thought we could get your thoughts on the gold market as a whole right now. Obviously, it's been a really exciting year so far, or really even longer than a year, but record-setting prices in the market. One question I usually like to start with is just where do you see us in the cycle for gold at the moment?
Sure, yeah, and that's a great question. So obviously, you know that gold has taken a little bit of a hit here, although today, I think the last time I checked, it was up $26 or $27. But, gold has taken a hit down from its high of 3,500 in April. I account that to this US-China tariff deal. Obviously, with this sort of 90-day truce being in place, I think investors feel like they can go back to their regular asset classes, whether they're investing in bonds or equities, and they're feeling a little bit more comfortable to go back to the market. The market's rallying a bit. So they're leaving the safe haven of gold. But we got to remember, that's only a 90-day truce, a 90-day situation. What is going to happen at the end of 90 days? Will Trump, put in another truce between China and the US for another 90 days? We don't know. And I think it's that uncertainty that's really moving the market. But for now, I would account for this drop from the highs as just, the markets are rallying and people are feeling safe again.
Yeah, honestly, it's very interesting to me how quickly people forget what was going on just so recently, and it's probably going to come back, that volatility once again. So really good to have that, and I think that does explain very well the price action that we've seen recently. Yeah. So we've got the tariffs going on. What are the other key price drivers for gold that you're watching at the moment? Because obviously there's so many factors that can move the sector.
Yeah, well, obviously we've got inflationary pressures. We're seeing the geopolitical risks that are not going away. Obviously, the Ukraine-Russia war, the unrest in the Middle East. But that being said, we're seeing a record level of gold buying. We're seeing central banks trying to reduce their exposure to volatile currencies. So those are all drivers that are pushing people into, especially central banks and sort of what I call the smart investors, into gold. And we can talk about that for a second, because what we see here at Sprott Money is we see this, what I call the smart money goes in first. So we're seeing central banks, institutions, high net worth clients, they buy first. They're sort of the first to the party. And I think the public eventually becomes aware, and then we see the masses coming in and the other buyers. But right now, what we're seeing as Sprott Money, and I'm sure Argo is seeing as well, is the high net worth and the institutional investors have sort of turned themselves onto precious metals, the gold and silver specifically, buying in large quantities. And we'll see the masses follow behind that.
Yeah, that was actually one of the key questions that I wanted to ask you is, who is buying gold right now? So obviously we're starting to see it come down the chain. What do you think for the masses will be the trigger to come into gold? Because I've heard so many different ideas about what that could be.
That's a good question. Well, anytime we see, mass buying and even just here on a smaller scale at Sprott Money, we see, the phone lines ringing off the hook and online orders going crazy. Normally it's when we see price movements. And the price movements, of course, are tied to what's happening in the world. So if Trump, imposes a new tariff, or, there's some exposure in, or the US dollar starts to weaken, those are sort of key factors that can sort of drive the price. And when the price is going, and recently I've seen specifically going up, I see people coming in, because they don't want to be the last people to the party. They want to get in while the price is going up. They don't want to buy, before it's too late.
Yeah, of course. Nobody wants to be too late on an investment. So we've got a little bit of an idea now of your thoughts on what's going on in the gold market. And maybe we go and take a look at what's happening with Argo and with Sprott Money. I thought maybe the first place to look at is just explaining what Argo is and how it works. So if I'm understanding correctly, it's essentially using blockchain technology to facilitate precious metals ownership. But maybe you can shed a little bit more light on how it works.
Yeah, that's precisely it. So basically, it's the idea was allowing institutions, and I would actually say younger generations, to own a digital gold. And what people love about it is that it is stored at the Royal Canadian Mint. So it's stored with the sovereign mint. And our involvement, Sprott Money's involvement, is that now if somebody does want to take physical delivery, Argo will, because we're sister companies, Argo will pass the trade on to Sprott Money, and we can do the physical fulfillment for them. So that's basically how it works. And we believe that, of course, the younger generation will be interested in buying through Argo, just because it is digital. It's a little bit more modern and sleek, and it appeals to them.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So there's a digital angle, and definitely I could see how that appeals to the younger generation who's used to doing all these things online. But then this is a recent news is adding that physical delivery option. So maybe if you can talk a little bit more about why that was important to bring into the mix for people.
Yeah. Well, having physical delivery, I think more than anything for investors and for clients, it's peace of mind. So knowing that the gold is actually physically there at the RCM, and that we can take that gold and we can put it, in a FedEx or a Canada Post, and we can physically deliver it to their home address. I think there's peace of mind knowing that, it can eventually arrive to your home or place of business. And I think that's just a peace of mind that investors want, knowing that the gold is actually there.
I think that's so important, especially after all of the gold is the gold there questions that we had going around in the broader world in this past quarter. I can see how that would be important.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a good strategic partnership, because although I don't anticipate a lot of these clients, sort of younger generation clients, actually wanting to get the physical gold, I think there's a peace of mind there knowing that they can get it on demand.
Yeah. And do you have a sense of who the user base is? I know you mentioned, of course, want to bring in the younger users. And I'm wondering, is that happening? And maybe if there's anything in particular you're doing to attract younger people, because I know that's such a big question for the gold market as a whole. How do we bring in people who are a little bit on the younger side?
Yeah. Well, I am not a young person myself anymore, but I do understand that the influencers certainly resonate with younger folks. And, advertising on social media platforms appeals to younger people. So I know they have been involved on the marketing side of things with an influencer, and definitely getting the messages out to the TikToks, the Twitters and the Instagrams of this world, because that's what those younger people are on, and that's where they go for their information and their news, and even for purchases.
Yeah, I think that's the first step, is to be where those people are. So that makes complete sense. And so we've been talking about the gold angle here, but I believe people can also buy silver. They can buy platinum. Are there any points that you would make on those markets? Because those are a little bit, of course, similar to gold, given that they're precious metals, but they are their own different markets as well.
Yeah, so at Sprott Money, you can certainly buy silver and platinum. Although I must say, the platinum market is very, very small. Our clients haven't really been turned on to platinum, and I would say, honestly, it's probably 1% of our sales. It's very little. But that being said, what I'm seeing right now is about a 60-40 split between gold buying and silver buying. So silver is definitely in favor. People have it on their radars. They are buying it. And, we usually see that 50-50 split, if not a little bit higher. Obviously, when the price of gold goes up, that split goes higher for gold. But yeah, I think silver is completely undervalued. I think, given where our gold silver ratio is right now, I think there's a huge buying opportunity to get into the silver space. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a question that I'm seeing a lot among our audience members is, okay, is now actually a better time for me to take a look at silver? It's sounding from a lot of people like, yeah, that might be the case right now. Yeah. Anything further you would add? I don't know if you go in the price prediction direction, but do you have a sense on where prices could be headed in 2025?
I don't really get in the price prediction game. I mean, I know what experts are saying, and I know, what I'm reading, but I personally don't tend to make those predictions because, what I find is people will hold you to it, and they'll say, oh, you predicted silver was going to go to $300 in a year. And when it doesn't happen, it's not this. I believe overall that gold and silver have a long way to go, given the level of debt in the US, as we talked about before, all the geopolitical risks, the inflationary pressures, the weak US dollar. I mean, we're seeing all the points are there. And it's just we need a ready, set, go, especially for silver. We really need it to start moving. And there's no reason that it shouldn't be much higher.
I agree, and I totally understand on the price prediction angle for sure. I will let you go. I think we've had a good overview of what's going on in gold and silver, as well as what's happening with Argo and Sprott Money. But before I do, I would ask if you have any final words you'd leave investors with. I know it's very interesting and volatile times right now to be in the markets.
Well, the one thing I would say, if I was going to give any advice to anyone, is gold and silver. We talked about silver being cheap, and with gold being down about $300 from its high, I'd say now is the time to buy. I personally take these dips in the market as buying opportunities, and I think our clients see it too. The funny line that I always hear from my clients is, "Gold is on sale right now," or "Silver's on sale. This is a great time to get in." So I think it's a good buying opportunity, because if this China-US tariff deal goes through again after 90 days, or the US dollar gets beat up a little bit more, or we see the markets, people getting out of the markets, equity markets specifically, we will start to see gold rallying again here.
Okay, well, I think that's a really good note to end on. So thank you very much for coming on to go over what's happening in these sectors. It was great to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Of course. And once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and this is Larisa Sprott.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We'd also love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a comment below.